Hello, I'm Julian Radu, and I'm presenting this work on behalf of my collaborators. My co-author Chris Didi will be presenting with me at the iLRN conference session, and I hope you can join us there. This research is part of the bigger Reach Every Reader project that's focused on developing literacy tools for use by children, families, and educators. These include the current work on reducing implicit biases and increasing empathy, and also other interventions for improving practices in classrooms and at home, developing technology applications for literacy and play, and developing learning communities that include teachers and parents. In the current research, we focus on the relationship between immersive technology and biases. Human brains are susceptible to many different kinds of biases, as this photo from Wikipedia shows. For example, when we think of the future, we make assumptions based on our existing knowledge that we've built from the past. And when we look at new situations, we look for details that match our pre-existing beliefs. This impacts students' own learning. For example, this graph shows a type of bias called stereotype threat. In this study, students were asked to take a math test, and there were two groups of students. One group, that's shown on the left, was asked about their race and gender after the test, and another group of students, shown on the right, was asked about their race and gender before the test. And you can see that the test scores of the students became biased just by them thinking about their own race and gender. And these kinds of biases also exist in teachers. And previous studies show that teachers are biased when evaluating students. Teacher biases can relate to assumptions about their own skills, such as beliefs that my own teaching style works really well and it doesn't have to be changed, or I treat all students the same way. Or they can be biases about students. For example, believing that students who are from high socioeconomic status groups are typically smarter, or students from lower socioeconomic status groups are less smart. In the present study, we wanted to investigate whether teachers are biased by perceptions of students' socioeconomic status and whether we can use immersive environments to detect these kind of biases. Our research questions are the following. First, we investigate whether immersive media can reveal teacher biases about socioeconomic status. Second, does the degree of presence experienced by teachers relate to the strength of the bias? And then third, the question is, how are socioeconomic status information used by teachers? To perform this study, we use the technology of immersion. Immersion is a screen-based software that can present teachers with simulated environments, such as a classroom of virtual students. And the way it works is that the teacher interacts with students through a screen, and behind the scenes, the virtual students are controlled through a combination of human puppeteering and artificial intelligence. In our study, we had teachers read a story to the students and then watch as students practice literacy by retelling the story. So in this video, we're going to show two interactions from the study. First, you will see me acting as a teacher, and I'll be introducing myself to the class and then reading through a book. And then you'll also see the students interrupt me, for example, to comment on my glasses. Hello, class. My name is Mr. Julian. I'll be your substitute teacher for today. We are going to be reading through this.
I like your glasses.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I just got these a few days ago. So we're going to be reading from this book. So it's a children's book. It's called Never Lonely Again. So one morning, Chestnut stayed in bed longer than usual.
Can you bring it closer? I can't see the pictures.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does this help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So one morning, Chestnut stayed in bed longer than usual. He didn't feel like getting up. And then after reading the book, the teacher was asked to evaluate students as they retell the story. And here's one student retelling the story.
Chestnut wouldn't play outside because he had no friends. Morris woke Chestnut up, and Chestnut was furious. Morris introduced his friends to Chestnut. Then they caught butterflies and ate apples. By the end of the day, Chestnut laughed a lot and became Morris's new friend.
So in our study design, we asked teachers to evaluate the students as they retell the story. And we wanted to see if the evaluations were influenced by teacher knowledge about each student. So our study design was a within-subject study design where teachers first did an introduction, talking to the students. They read a book to the students, and then they did a practice session. And then they were presented with two students. The teacher was told some background information about each student, where one student was presented as coming from a high socioeconomic status, and the other student was presented as coming from a low socioeconomic status. But the information was covert, as I will present in the next slides. Then, after hearing the background information, teachers listened to the students, and then the teachers evaluated them, finishing up in an interview. And the activity took roughly 30 minutes. So for our variables of interest, we have socioeconomic status as an independent manipulated variable. And this was provided to teachers in the form of background information. For example, one student was described as being eight and a half years old, and they grew up in a single parent household. They received low-cost meals at school and love playing soccer and eating with their friends. And then for the other student, they were described also as 8.5 years old, but they enjoy traveling on vacation with their parents, and they visited many countries and love eating food from different cuisines. And they are also social and friendly and love to make friends at school. And after being presented with this information and hearing students retell the story, teachers evaluated the students. And they also scored the perceived presence in the experience. And then student performance was designed to be equivalent, so all students performed equally, and other variables were controlled so they would not influence the results. And in total, we had 27 teachers participate based on a convenience sample from local schools and teacher preparation programs. So for our findings, we found that most teachers did not think they are biased. Most teachers said that they're not biased, or at least not in this situation. However, we found that bias existed. So statistically, teachers believed that students from lower socioeconomic status made more improvement than their higher socioeconomic status students. So these results indicate that simulated environments such as the immersion classroom can reveal biases that are present in teachers, even though teachers are not aware of these, and even though it was such a short exposure of just 30 minutes of interaction. And furthermore, teacher sense of presence during the experience was correlated with the strength of the bias, whereby the teachers who felt more immersed, they showed higher biases. And from the interviews, we also found that teachers experienced emotions such as disbelief that the low socioeconomic student could perform as well as they did. And then teachers also mentioned that the tension between wanting to be unbiased, but also needing to take into account socioeconomic status. For example, one teacher said that they need to take background information into consideration. For example, if one child is hungry and doesn't have money for lunch, they would want to know that and take that into account in their teaching. Or another teacher said that you have to sometimes give marginalized people more chances in the classroom so that they can feel safer. So in this paper, we discuss several takeaways and future work. So this study showed that even though we used a small convenience sample, screen-based simulations like immersion can be used to generate highly controlled realistic interactions that reveal pre-existing biases. And we did this in a small 30-minute exposure, but future work should investigate longer-term, more realistic exposure like real classrooms, and also the ability to detect other types of biases. The fact that we found biases indicates the possibility of integrating such activities in teacher training programs, specifically where the aim is to make teachers aware of their own biases as a first step in unlearning biased and problematic behaviors. Furthermore, in this study, we assessed the bias after the study, but an interesting area of research is the live assessment and detection of biases during teacher interactions and how that could be integrated into live coaching sessions. And finally, this project shows how screen-based technology can be used to create controlled interactions that reveal biases, and future research should investigate the effect of creating such research studies with other mediums, such as AI-driven immersive virtual reality, which could have different degrees of immersion and behavioral realism. For more details, please see our paper and contact us. Thank you very much.